Hey there everyone, in this video we are going to look at how we can add reCaptcha to our Next.js site. So let's start with this video. So in this video we are going to build this beautiful form where user can register themselves, but before that they have to confirm that they are not the bot by clicking on this I'm not the robot checkbox, and believe me, it's really simple to do that. So let's try this out. We are going to fill in all of the details which are required over here, name and email, and we will not click on this I am not a robot checkbox, and we will hit register, and there you will see that it says unprocessable request, please provide the required fields. So now we are going to click on this I am not a robot checkbox. And there we have this little animation which confirms that we are not a robot. And then when we click on this register, it is going to take us to this profile page. Here you can do anything that you want to show to your user, okay? And before we move further, I want to show you this one thing. When you have clicked this I am not a robot checkbox, but for some reason you didn't submit this form, it is going to give you an error which is going to ask you verification is expired. You have to click the checkbox again, and then you will provide all of the details again, and then you are going to hit register. So I think it takes about minute or couple of minutes to say that verification has failed. So before that we have to submit our form. Now what we are going to do is we are going to remove this email and we are going to hit register, and you will see that it is asking us to fill this field because it is the required field. Also, one thing is that reCaptcha only shows challenges if user fails its behavior or cookie analysis. Otherwise, it is just going to ask us to click on this checkbox and we are done. If user fails its behavior, then it is going to throw us a puzzle which we have to solve to confirm that we are not a bot. Okay, so let's go and build this form now. So open the terminal and we are going to start off by creating a Next.js app by running the command npm create -next-app. You can use npm or yarn, whatever you would like to use, and then let's hit enter. It is going to ask us our project name, and in this we are going to provide the project name as Next.js reCaptcha app, and then let's hit enter. Then it is asking us if we would like to use TypeScript. So for this project we would say no, and if we would like to use ESLint we will say yes. If you like Tailwind CSS you can go with it, but for this project which is really very simple we are just going with no. And if we would like to use the source directory, we are not going to use the source directory, so no. And if we would like to use app router we would say no. For default import alias also we are not going to do anything. So yeah, it has started initializing our project. Now that it has done creating our application, we are going to open it into our VS Code. On the left side of my screen, I have my project open, and on the right side, I am on reCaptcha admin. So head over to this reCaptcha admin console on this link. I will also provide its link in the description, so you don't need to worry, okay? And here we are going to start off by creating our new site. So for the label, provide the same name as your project. And then we are going to select this challenge version 2, and we are going to select this I am not a robot checkbox, okay? Invisible reCaptcha badge is just like this. It is going to show on the bottom right side of your site. This badge is not going to interrupt the user by asking them to click on the checkbox of I am not a robot or giving them puzzles to solve. So you can even use this invisible reCaptcha badge, but for this video we are going to go with I am not a robot checkbox. And in the domain, let's provide the localhost as our domain. If you have your site published, then provide that domain name here with the localhost, and here you will provide your domain name by clicking on this plus icon, okay? And then let's hit submit. And there we are going to get the site key and a secret key which we are going to use in our project directory. Head back to the VS Code, and in the root directory we are going to create file named .env, and inside this .env file we are going to bring our site key and our secret key. So for the site key, let's say it's going to be next_public_reCaptcha_site_key, and then for the secret key we are going to have reCaptcha_secret_key. So let's bring in our site key from here and then paste it over here. Then let's bring in our secret key and then paste it into our .env file. And now let's save this file. If you notice, we are using next_public for our site key. Why is that so? Because we need the site key to be available to the client. So for that, we use this site key with the suffix next_public, and because of this, the site key will be available to the client. We are not doing the same thing for the secret key because we don't want it to be exposed to the client. If you don't want to keep the secret file into this .env file, you can create various environment for your environment variables like .env.production or .env.local, and just like that you can separate out the keys for various environment. So save this file, and now inside this pages directory we have this index.js file present over here. What we are going to do is we are going to remove all of its content, and let's start by creating our form. But before that, there is one thing that we have to do is we have to open up our terminal. I'm just going to maximize this screen so that you can see perfectly what is happening over here. And in the terminal, let's run the command pnpm I react-google-reCaptcha to bring in the reCaptcha component, Axios and node fetch. Okay, and then let's hit enter. And we will let it install all of the packages that we are going to need. After we are done, let's head back to the index.js file. And in the index.js file, we are going to start off by importing React from React. Also, we are going to import head from next/head and reCaptcha from the package we just installed, that was react-google-reCaptcha. After that, let's declare the export default function home, and inside it we are going to start off with the state initialization using React hook useState. So for that, let's first import useState hook from the React at top of the file, just like this. And then down here, let's declare 3 state variables: email, name and captcha value. These are going to hold user's email, name and the value of reCaptcha. Then we also want to use the useRef hook. So for that, we are going to first import it. So beside the use state, let's import the useRef hook also, just like this. And then let's create a reCaptcha ref. We use useRef to create a reference to the reCaptcha component. And then inside the return statement, we are going to render our form. So let's start with that. First, create a div with the class name container. Inside it, we are going to have our head component, which is going to show the title of our main page, and it is going to show the Next.js icon. And then we will have the another div with the ID newsletter-form, which is going to help style the page. Inside it, we have a heading 2 element which has a class name of header which says subscribe to our newsletter. And then inside it, we have another div which has our form element. This form element also had this onSubmit event handler that calls the handle submit function when the form is submitted. It is essential for connecting the form submission logic to the handle submit function. And then inside this form element, we have one label and an input element. Label says that label is for name, and then we have the input element which has an onChange attribute which calls in the handle change function. This handle submit function and handle change function we are going to create in a matter of moment. This input has a type of text so that only text can be entered, and value is set to the name, whatever the name user is going to provide us, and then the placeholder is set to John Doe. Just like the above label and input elements, we are going to have another label and input element, but this time it is going to be for email. And this email input is also going to call in the onChange attribute, which is going to call the handle change function. After that, we have a button for which type is set to submit, and its name is register. So whenever the user is going to click on this register, the form is going to be get submitted. Outside the form, we have the reCaptcha component, which is going to provide the I'm not a robot checkbox. And for reCaptcha component, we use reCaptcha ref to reset the reCaptcha after a successful submission. And then we also have this site key attribute which takes the key from the .env file. And we also have a onChange attribute which listens for the change event and calls handle captcha change function with the new value of reCaptcha response token when the user completes the reCaptcha verification. This handle change handle submit, and also this handle captcha change functions, we are just going to create them now. So below the reCaptcha ref variable, let's declare a handle change function. This function is going to update the state based on the user input for name and email. This function is going to be called when the user types in the input field to update the state with the new value that the user has inserted. Then below the handle change function, let's declare our handle captcha change function. This function is going to update the state with the reCaptcha value. This function will be called when the user completes the reCaptcha verification process to get the token value so that it can be sent to the server. And now here comes the boss, handle submit asynchronous function. Handle submit function is called when the user submits the form. Inside this handle submit function, we have this try and catch methods. This event.prevent_default will help prevent the default form submission behavior, which would cause the page to reload. Inside this try statement, we will send a post request to the server with the user's name, email, and reCaptcha token. And if the request is successful, the user will be redirected to the profile page as we saw earlier. Or else we say if the request fails, we are going to show an alert message which is going to show the error. And inside the catch statement, we are going to throw an error if any error occurs throughout the process, okay? And if everything checks out, the function is going to send a post request to this API register endpoint with the user's data. This API endpoint we will also create now. So let's wait for a matter of moment. So for now, let's save this file and open up the terminal, and here let's run the command pnpm run dev to check what we have till here. So the site has started on the localhost 3000, and not going to lie, this does not look good. So let's beautify this form. So let's head back to the VS Code, and in this let's open the styles folder, and inside this we have this global.css file. Select all of its content and remove it, because we are going to have our own styles for our form page. So in this file, we are going to start off by using CSS reset, which is used to remove the default margin and padding on all of the elements. And we set the box sizing property to border box. This is going to ensure that whenever we set the width and height of any element, it is going to include padding and borders in the calculation. Then we style the body of our page by setting its background color to near about white, font family to Helvetica, and text color to black. Then we are going to style the container of our form, set the container to width of 100 viewport and height to 100 viewport height. And we use flexbox to center the form both vertically and horizontally, and giving it a background color of near about black, okay? The newsletter form width is set to auto, margin is also set to 0 and auto, background color is set to near about white, padding, box shadow we have font family, we have display set to flex, and flex direction is going to be column because we want name, email, and I'm not a robot checkbox in a column, okay? Align item center, justify content center. We also have a border radius of 10 pixel. We also have a child element within our newsletter form. This newsletter form selector targets all the elements inside the form and sets the box sizing property to border box. Then we also style the heading which is present inside the form H2. We have its text aligned to center, and margin from bottom is going to be 30 pixel. Then we have a label inside a newsletter form. Its font weight is set to bold and color is set to 777. We also have an input element inside the newsletter form. We set its display to block, height to 32 pixel, padding to 6 pixel and 16 pixel, width to 100%, border is set to none, background color is set to near about gray, width is set to 300 pixel, height 40, margin from the top is 15 and from bottom is also 15. I think we can just connect margin from top and bottom. Okay, you will do that. And border radius is set to 4 pixel. And then we also have a button whose type is set to submit. For that, we have all of this CSS property for it. Display set to block, margin, width, height, border radius, border, color, font weight is set to 700. We also have box shadow for it. margin from the bottom is 20 pixel, background, and then we also have cursor pointer. And then let's save this file and head back to the localhost 3000. And there we have our newsletter form. Perfect. And now this is not where we are going to stop. We still have to create our API endpoint, register, and a profile page. So let's start doing that. So head back to the VS Code and let's start by creating our API endpoint register. To do that, we are going to create a file named register.js inside this API directory. So here let's create a folder which is going to be named as register.js. So in this file, we are going to start off by importing fetch from the node fetch package which we installed earlier. This is a library that allows us to make HTTP requests from the server. Then we create a sleep arrow function that will be used to simulate a delay in the server response to test the loading state of the form. Inside the arrow function, we create a new promise. Within the promise constructor, we will have a set timeout function. This function sets a timer, and after a 350 milliseconds, it is going to call the resolve function which we will create just now. Let's now declare a export default async function handler that takes request and response as the parameters. Inside the function, we begin by extracting the request body and method. Then we will destructure the body object to get the name, email, and captcha fields. And here it is now that we need to pay attention to the method check. This method check is going to ensure that the function only proceeds if the incoming request is a post request. Why is it important? Is because we want to make sure that we are handling registration data only when a user is submitting a form. And then we also check if the required field, that is name, email, and captcha, are present in the request body. If any of them are missing, we will respond with a 422 status code indicating an unprocessable request, and we will ask a user to fill in the required fields. Now this is where the exciting part comes in. Our code is going to interact with the Google's reCaptcha API. So inside the try statement, we are going to send a request to verify the captcha value received from the client. This is the request to the Google reCaptcha API to validate the token. We are using the fetch function to make the request. We also pass the secret key and the token as a query parameter in the URL. We are also setting the content type header and a method to post. Then we create a captcha validation variable which is going to be response from the Google reCaptcha API. We are parsing the response to JSON format to get the success and error code fields. We use the await keyword to wait for the response to be passed before continuing. Then we check that the captcha validation that ensures that yes, the captcha was valid. If it was successful, we do a short delay of 350 milliseconds, and it is because of the sleep function that we created above. And then we respond with a 200 status indicating success. And if by any chance the captcha validation fails, we will respond with a 422 status and an error message indicating unprocessable request, invalid captcha code. And then finally, inside the catch statement, we are going to handle any unexpected error that might occur during this process. We are going to log the error and response with the 422 status and a message that says something went wrong. And if the request method is not post, we are going to return a 404 status code with a message not found. And this is all for our server-side code. So now we are going to check if this is working perfectly fine. So for now, let's save this file and head back to the localhost 3000. Okay, one last thing that we are yet to do is to create a profile page. So inside this pages directory, let's create another file named profile.js. And inside this profile.js file, create an export default function named profile, and we are going to return a h1 heading inside it which is going to say profile. So let's save this file also. And now let's head back to the localhost 3000 and let's now try submitting this form. So fill in the name and also the email. Then let's click on this I am not a robot checkbox, and then let's hit register. And there it does takes us to our profile page. And now if you want to check that it really does gives user to solve the puzzle when they seem suspicious, let's do one thing and check it. Let's head back to the reCaptcha side, and then here let's go to the settings page. And inside the setting page, let's provide the security to the most secure one, and then let's hit save. After it has done saving our changes, then go to the incognito mode and let's hit localhost 3000. And this is where it gives us puzzle to solve, and it is asking us to select all the squares with the motorcycle. So let's do this and let's verify this, and there we have the user verified. So let's provide the name and email, and then let's hit register, and then it takes us to the profile page. So that's pretty much all for this video. I hope it helped you, and if it did, then do not forget to like and subscribe. Also, if you want to read its blog or check out the code, the link to the site is given in the description. So do check it, and I'll see you in the next one. Till then, bye bye and happy coding.